Howdy boys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I am giving you all the sauce. I am actually going to go in depth into the Catalyst program and talk about exactly the steps that I used to transform my own life by the grace of God and the steps that I use with my clients. No joke, I'm actually going to go into in detail what I do here. And I'm going to explain to you why I'm confident and comfortable doing that later in the video. But what I can tell you for now is this. If you apply everything that we discuss here today, you will have a positive outcome, guaranteed. The things in your life that you're trying to make progress towards, you will make progress towards if you apply the stuff in this video. This video will remove your excuses. It's gonna remove the things that you keep telling yourself, oh, but this, oh, but that, but I don't know how, but I don't know what. I'm about to explain it all to you right now. So lock in. This is not full of dopamine hits for kicks and giggles. This is not for short attention spans. This is for men who actually want to sit down, take some notes, and make a real change. Okay? So if that's you, keep watching. If not, scroll on. Have a great day. So let's get into this. This is how I grew from a soft and suppressed man to a masculine and motivated man without betraying my faith. Okay, because there's so many men in church that they're saying godly things and they seem like very nice people, but it felt like if I was going to be masculine and confident and powerful, that probably wasn't the way I needed to go. And then of course there are men in the world that seem masculine, confident, and powerful. They got the Lambos, the women, the body, the money, but they didn't have any virtue. And I didn't want to be like that either, okay? And this is something I've struggled with since I was 15 or 16. I asked my dad, when do I become a man? I've always been interested in that. I saw powerful men in the world. I saw very few powerful men in the church though. What I saw mostly in the church was men who had the fire sucked out of their eyes, like they looked dead inside behind that weak smile. And then maybe the woman next to them was kind of yippy skippy with this fake aura about her. And then the man is just looking drained, and not in a good way. He looks drained of his life force, drained of his energy. Okay. And then funny enough, I went through the path of becoming a man in my late teens, early 20s, and was doing really well on paper. But then I became soft and suppressed through the process. Guys, this is me in my early to mid 20s. This is what I looked like, guys. And I don't know if you guys can really see. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here on the old iPad. My facial hair kind of covers it up here on the left one, but on the right one, you can really see I didn't have a jawline. I was very soft and pudgy, skinny fat. And if you can just look in those eyes on the left, that facial expression is one of soullessness and emptiness and suppression. Was not in a good place. Actually, more in the picture on the right there, I was killing it in my career, but definitely not in a healthy masculine confidence at all. And then here's some more recent pictures. Completely different guy. Sorry, that's kind of blurry, but you can see massive change in the facial structure. And I don't have the audio with me right now, but those of you in Inner Circle have heard like my voice changed as well. A lot of major changes here. Like just look at the difference between that face and that face. It's crazy. That's actually me. That guy and that guy are the same guy. Wild. And of course, the body changed quite a bit as well. The voice changed a bit as well. Confidence changed a bit as well. And now I get to do basically what I love, helping teach men, coach men up in the ways of godly, confident masculinity. So before going through this process, which I call the Catalyst program in my coaching now, before going through this process, I had a broken sex drive and self-expression. What that means is I was trying to suppress my sex drive. I knew I wasn't supposed to act out with lustful thoughts, fantasies, dirty websites, etc. And I was always overthinking like, oh, am I lusting? Am I not? You know, I don't want to look at this girl. I don't want to have this thought. And then eventually after some tough things I went through, I turned to the dirty websites as well. and was struggling with that as well. Self-expression was tied to that because the sex drive is tied to my natural instinct and it's tied to your natural instinct. So if the sex drive is wonky, then your instinct is going to be wonky. You're not going to be able to self-express how you should. I couldn't break through plateaus in my life. I would always kind of go through these cycles of kind of spurts of motivation, and then I would derail and mess it all up and kind of be back to ground zero. Then I would pick up all the pieces and get back on that motivational spurt again and make some progress, but then the cycle would repeat, and I would live that way for years. Actually wasted a lot of time in my 20s going through that cyclical plateau cycle. I spent a lot of time in my late teens, early and even mid 20s being caught between these worldly teachings that seem to actually work and then Christian teachings. I call them Christianese because they're not really Christian. They sound Christian, but they're not. And often the guys preaching them, I'm like, I don't want to be like you. What you're saying sounds nice and it sounds right, but I don't want to be the type of man that I think you are. And I just felt stuck between that for so long. And guys, I don't have some sort of sob story about how I was like behind the curve or like, struggling in life. I was doing pretty well. Like pretty much any job I got, I would get promotions. I did well in school. I was a hard worker. Definitely the exceeds expectations kind of guy. Those of you who know, kind of know a bit about my story, but I would be using vices to cope with stress. And, I grew up in a Christian home. I didn't get into a lot of really hard stuff, but I still used vices to cope with my stress. And that included the dirty websites at one point. It included just like binging different things, right? Sleeping too much, just any sort of escapism tactic. I could attract women, but not the right kinds. So I've gone through different phases with this. I've gone through phases where I could attract really I'm going to try to censor myself here. Women that really turned me on, okay, but they weren't the most virtuous. And I've gone through phase where I could attract virtuous women that like appreciated me, but I wasn't attracted to them. And yeah, I'll just leave it there. I couldn't attract the right type of women. So compare that to after the catalyst transformation. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your butt and pretend like all my problems are fixed. They're absolutely not. But here's what's true. My self-expression is now confident, immediate, and authentic. Okay, not to a fault. It's not that I never hesitate, but my ability to express myself instinctively and decisively is like a 9 out of 10. I could not do that. And I'll get more into my story as to why that was later. But suffice it to say, I have changed majorly with that, and I help my clients do the same in very big ways. I am now firing on all cylinders on a regular basis and breaking through plateaus on a regular basis. So life is not perfect. I'm not one of those nonsense scammer people that you see claiming to have a perfect life. But I am firing on all cylinders knowing that I'm moving aggressively and intentionally toward my highest potential. I have God-honoring ambition and a fire in my soul that rocks the boat. What that means is my ambition is not just for myself. I do have things that I want for myself. There's nothing wrong with that. God knows what my heart is, and I submit those things to Him. But my ambition is now inclusive of a greater and higher mission that I can bring with me to anything, no matter what I'm doing. And I wake up with a fire in my soul that rocks the boat. You guys that follow me on Instagram have seen I started doing the morning stories again a few months ago. And just about every single day, I take Sundays off, but I will post stories fresh in the morning because I have that fire that's undying that I keep stoked every single day. I now have freedom from adult content by the grace of God and other vices that hold me back from growth, okay? I am not held back by my coping mechanisms anymore. And this is kind of crazy to say, right? But I do attract beautiful, feminine, high-quality women on autopilot. And what that means is I don't have to go try hard or go out of my way to, dress a certain way or, pose or have frame or like all these things or use all these tactics from Red Pill to try to trick a woman into liking me. Like, I don't have to do any of that. I just lock in on what I'm about and who I am, And it's been really cool to see the types of women, and some of them, like, I never would have thought that I could attract. And it's really, really cool. Obviously, all for the sake of marriage. I'm very, very picky with all of that. And those of you who know my story can know why. I'm not going to show fake pictures of models or anything like that for this. You guys can trust me, or you don't have to. But these are real women I've talked to. I'm not going to show you their pictures, but they're high quality, beautiful women. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. So let's talk about who this is for. If you, like I, felt stuck in this above average existence, but you always felt like you were meant for more, okay, then this is going to be for you. I always felt like, and I still feel like I'm meant for more, but in the past, I've been stuck in this kind of above average existence where everybody looks at me and they say, oh, Luke's doing great, oh, you're doing great. And they're happy for me. They're proud of me. And I'm sitting there feeling like, no, something's not right. And now I feel different. If that feels like you, but you still don't know kind of how to make that jump, this is for you. If you are frustrated like I am with the lack of powerful role models in modern Christianity and the lack of virtuous role models in the world, and you want to become the type of man who could mentor the younger version of you, then this is for you. That's something I love to do now. I love to mentor guys that are either younger and or further behind in their journey than I am, and mentor them in a way that I needed when I was in that phase. If you are struggling to secure or maintain, whether you're single or you're in a relationship or marriage, the attraction of a high quality woman and want to become magnetic towards your type, that's key. You're not going to become magnetic toward all women. That's not a real thing. Another topic for later, but if you want to become truly magnetic to your type, this is for you. If you have unhealthy coping mechanisms that you know are holding you back from maximizing your potential, this is definitely for you. I know how you feel, and I've worked with tons of clients who can relate to that as well. All right, let's talk about who this is not for. If you have these private vices, the dirty websites, alcohol, hitting the vape, weed, anything like that, binge eating, etc., and you don't actually want to let go of these things, then you're going to be frustrated by this. A lot of people like to talk about letting go of these things, and they like to be sad about these things, but they don't actually want to let them go. So if you're kind of this hem-hawer guy that you're not ready to make a real change, stop watching this, because it's going to frustrate you, okay? Because it's going to put a lot of accountability on your shoulders, which is not going to be helpful if you just want to talk about it. If you're too scared to make painful changes for the sake of growth, okay? I mean painful changes, okay? Growth doesn't come without pain. If you want to make painful changes, then stay. But if you're not wanting to do that, then this is not going to be for you. If you prefer to blame things in your life on factors outside of your control, like, your family, your past, some things about your body, your circumstances, and you don't want to own your own life, then you're not going to like this. And if you just want to be an average dude, which is fine. Like, if you want to have an average life with average goals and an average impact on the world, where you kind of go to work and you slog through, and then you play rec league sports on the weekend, and kind of rinse and repeat every single week, have a few beers, go on a couple vacations a year, and you kind of live and die without really ever making a dent on the world, this is not for you. You're not going to like this. But if you want to do that, that's okay. I'm just telling you, this is not going to be for you. If you are not at least open to biblical principles permanently changing your life, then this is not going to be for you. Okay? What I mean by that is, you don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to be as Christian, quote, quote, as me. You can be figuring it out, whatever. But if you're not at least open to those biblical ideas, then you're not going to like this. Okay, so here's the truth about godly manhood, Christian masculinity, that people are not talking about, at least not in the right way. You can actually be a virtuous, God-honoring, loving man without being soft, suppressed, nicey, kind of church volunteer, hey buddy, how you doing? Good to see ya, kind of pushover vibes. You can be powerful, God honoring, and loving without turning into that softy softy. Okay. A lot of guys don't know how to do that. A lot of modern teachers are either one way or another way. They're either these bombastic men who have not submitted all of their life to God, and it's quite obvious, right? Those of you who follow men in my space, pay attention. You're going to see typically two types. There's either the soft, kind of pudgy, nicey type who has great things to say, or there's the dude who, loves to use foul language and show his tattoos and his truck and how edgy he is. And he says some stuff that it's just not in line with the scripture. Okay. I'm not here to debate about foul language or tattoos or trucks. I'm just saying those all go together with that guy. And you're going to see him talking about things that you're like, that's not really in line with scripture. But he has this masculine edge and appeal, right? That's like the bulk of what I saw. And so part of the reason that I'm in existence is to show you that you can have it all. Okay? Your sex drive is your friend, it's not your enemy. That's a big misconception that we see in the church, is the church does not know how to handle the sex drive. The Bible does, but the church has failed us in that regard. Here's a big one that a lot of guys are not ready to hear, but it's just true, okay? And I'll explain to you how I know this. Women would rather be with a man who does bad than be with a man who doesn't do good. And I know this because I've asked women this, and I'm not talking about drunk girls on the street, although they would probably agree. I'm talking about Christian women seeking to better themselves in femininity. I asked them a question that gave me this answer. You see, the reason why so many nice guys are ticked off and bitter towards women, these kind of soft incel nice guy dudes, the reason they're upset with women is because they think, oh, if I just don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, treat her nice, pedestalize her, give her anything she wants, then she's supposed to like me. And then when she doesn't, they get all bitter. Here's the truth. Your virtue of not doing bad is good, okay? The fact that you don't do bad is a good thing, okay? We like that you don't do bad things as a man. But that doesn't make you attractive, okay? I'm gonna say that again because I really need you guys to understand this. It is good that you avoid bad things. But simply avoiding bad things does not make you attractive to a woman, okay? What makes you attractive to a woman is doing. It's not the not doing. She will appreciate that you don't lie, don't steal, don't cuss, don't cheat on her, don't whatever. She'll appreciate that, but that's not what's going to make her attracted to you. So when it comes to attraction, women would rather be with a man who does than a man who doesn't. Okay? Nobody talks about this, at least not in church. You can absolutely be a godly man without being soft, but the modern church has failed to integrate God's principles for living with the untamable instinct of masculinity. The church has kind of done this thing where we apologize for manhood and we want to say all the bad things. Like before we talk about submission, we have to have like a 25-minute preamble about what it's not and how men are supposed to love and what it doesn't mean and blah, blah, blah. And it's this soft, apologetic posture toward masculinity. And it's this subliminal suppression of like, now men, you need to be a servant leader. You need to be, humble and, you need to do what she wants to be a real man. And, they don't all say all of that explicitly, but that's the message, right? If you've been to church, then that's a lot of times the message that's being presented. And it's because there's a lot of reasons, but I'm going to suffice it to say the church doesn't understand how to integrate the untamable instinct of masculinity. Because here's the thing, guys, your instinct is not tame, okay? God did not create your instinct to learn tricks, to roll over, to sit. That's not what the masculine dog within you does. He has designed it to be on a leash, okay? You can put it on a leash that you control very carefully. That's good. But the church doesn't know how to do the leash thing. The church typically just wants to cage it, okay? And when we cage the masculine instinct, or when we try to tame the masculine instinct, we get very frustrated. Okay, church does not know how to do that, and it's quite obvious. She is reaping what she is sowing, okay? But the good news is, guys, I am not gonna let this happen to you. I'm not gonna let you fall in that crevice or the false dichotomy of this, that, or the other. You do not have to compromise your power and confidence as a man to have a thriving relationship with God and live according to the Bible. You just have to live in accordance to His design for your identity. At the end of the day, everything I do comes back to identity as a foundation. That's not all I do, but that is the foundational thing that I do, right? If you talk to a builder and you ask him what he does, he's going to say he builds, right? If he's a home builder, he's going to say he builds houses. But the foundation is so important, right? That's why we call it foundational, okay? Identity is the foundation, and so many men's identities have been compromised and corrupted, such that that's often what I find myself doing most of the time, is working on identity. And that's a huge piece we're going to touch on today as well. So if all this sounds good to you, and you're ready to tap into the confident, masculine man God has made you to be, then let me show you exactly how to walk in righteousness without suppressing your instinct. Use your sex drive to fuel your ambition, not corrupt your virtue. Easily attract high-quality women while being locked in on your purpose and goals. Be driven by a positive, mission-focused mindset instead of a fear of not being enough. And guys, we're going to pause on that for just a second. Most men, so like probably you watching this, are at your highest level of motivation when there's this subliminal fear of unworthiness or not being enough, okay? This little voice urges you to do more, to be more, to strive for more, because if you don't, you're not enough. Because if you don't, you're not going to make it. You're not worthy, right? That's what that little voice does. And the way you know for sure if it's that voice of fear is what happens when you fail. Well, for most of you that are under that voice, there's going to be heavy, heavy shame. And shame is different than guilt, because shame says, I am flawed. I am unworthy. I am not enough. Guilt is like, oh, I did something wrong. I should feel bad about that. Shame is like this, oh, like you just feel like a terrible person. Okay? If that's you in your low moments, you're being ruled by fear of not being enough. And that is what's keeping a lot of you stuck. That's what was keeping me stuck in this toxic, unbiblical mindset that robbed me of the masculine drive that I needed as a man. So I'm aware that some of you don't actually know my story, as you probably hear straight from Instagram or you got the link from somebody. So I want to give you a brief overview, okay? I am the oldest of 6 kids, so big family, conservative family, Christian family, homeschooled family, okay? So not all the stereotypes you imagine go with that, but a lot of them do, okay? On top of that, I was a pastor's kid. So I'm the oldest son of 6 kids, pastor's family, conservative homeschool family, okay? What that happened to produce in me was good values, good self-esteem, great childhood, and at the same time, I learned to follow the rules, to toe the line, right? Typical oldest child vibes, rule follower, line tower. I was going to be doing the right thing at all costs, always looking for the black and white, definitely trending toward legalism, definitely suppressing myself. I was always ambitious and I always knew I was meant for more, but I could never reconcile like a humble, meek Christian faith with this like inner drive. Like I didn't know how to put those two together, and it was always frustrating because I felt like I was always at 50% in either one at any given time. I didn't feel like I could have both. I felt pulled between the two. And like I said before, I wasn't one of these like, oh, I barely passed class or flunked out of college. I actually crushed it in school and in work and in fitness. This is me circa 2015, maybe, no, actually earlier than that. But anyways, I was in good shape. I was leading young adult Bible studies. I was leading worship in my dad's church. I had a 4.0 grade point average. I was competing in powerlifting and actually found a beautiful young woman from another conservative Christian family. I actually got married to her. We stayed pure. We, did everything right by the book, the whole nine, and it still went all wrong. Okay. And I don't know if I have time to go into all of that story today, but that was a very formative season for me. Suffice it to say, there were a lot of mistakes made, and all of that helped me destroy and rebuild my identity. And we would not be having this conversation if none of that happened. So I do look back on it as a blessing, but not one that I would wish on anybody else. Through all this, I was climbing the ranks, right? So I had worked in the Walmart headquarters for a while here in Bentonville. I had started my own marketing firm, and that had ran for a while as well. And then as a result of my marketing firm, I came into contact with a coffee company called Seven Brew, and that was back before they had any locations. I started doing some freelance writing for them, which eventually turned into me working with them on a regular basis, and then eventually becoming an employee, and then eventually becoming the highest paid employee, opening multiple locations, managing multiple locations, working with industry billionaires to standardize best practices, most of their training material. I had a major hand in and actually wrote a lot of it. This is a little shot of me on the front lines there. Definitely doing well in the career. It still didn't quench any of these problems. It still didn't fix any of these problems. And I was going through my identity, death, and rebirth through all of that process. So I'm about to give you guys the system that's been developed by me, going through my pain, pulling myself through my pain, holding on to God, understanding what that looks like, holding on to community, understanding what that looks like, going through my own coaching, going through my own therapy, okay? And all the experience I've accumulated through my diverse career path. I don't have time to get into everything I did, but working a ton with people, leading a ton of people, okay? And all of the clients that I've accumulated over the years as well, all right? I'm about to give all of this to you for free. And the reason why I think is best summed up by one of my clients here. And I'm gonna play this for you guys, and then I'll explain kind of my take on it as well.
I guess just a post, you can easily just like archive it, like save it and just like, oh, that was cool. And then you don't even know if you learned the lesson. Like you have no idea. But this is like retention. It's just like school. It feels like, okay, let's get the information in my head, and then I can always go back to like notes if needed. Sometimes you need to hear it from somebody. Like this would be the way to go. I'm really appreciative of all the work you have done in your life, things you have gone through to make you like this man you are today, and just to be confident in your ability to coach men. And it's really been an honor to do this with you, man.
So that's my client. Pash was a great guy to work with, and you can go see my other testimonials on my Instagram page as well. Obviously, I don't post all the clients I work with because some of it's very, very personal and they want to keep it private, whatever. But I have quite a few testimonials on there. Pash is one of them. What he's trying to say there, what he is saying there is you can learn all the knowledge and information you want to learn. But if you're just learning the knowledge, then it's easy to discard it and not implement it, okay? But as he was describing working with me, he's talking about on a regular basis, drilling it into the client's head and redirecting them when they implement it the wrong way and holding them accountable to that standard in a way that works for them. Custom tailoring the information and applying it to their life specifically is what I do. And by the way, guys, that's not what this video is going to be, okay? What you're going to get in this video is not just for you specifically, the individual. This is for anybody that watches it. So by default, it can't be customized. I'm giving it to you for free because less than 1% of you will implement any of this. A lot of you will just watch it and you'll feel some kind of way and you won't do anything. And then some of you will realize, oh, this is great stuff, but I don't have the mental capacity or the time to implement it all myself for myself. And so I'm going to work with Luke as a coach. Okay. But it doesn't hurt me to give away this information. And if you use it, great, use it. I hope it works for you. I truly hope this changes some people's lives. So let me now show you how I built a masculine, godly confidence that helped me live on intention and attract high quality women on autopilot without turning into a Christianese pushover twerp. All right. This is the Catalyst program. So I've broken it up into 4 steps here. We're going to cover each step in depth. Number 1, you have to tap into a purpose that transcends the usual faith, finances, family, fitness. Again, this is about one-to-one, okay? The one-to-many, like sort of Christianese lingo, which is good, is, faith, finances, family, fitness, right? It's these F words that like every man should have, and it's true. Every man should have those things, but those are more just like foundational things for every man. They're not something that's going to get you out of bed in the morning with that dog in you, okay? You have to have something that transcends that. If you don't have a purpose that transcends the basic stuff, you are not going to tap into your potential as a man, and you're not going to have reason for that inner dog within you to awaken. Okay, this is very, very key. There's a lot of this like one size fits all teaching in the modern church that's like the only thing you should really be ambitious for is like for missions, or like, and by missions, I mean like full-time mission work, or like giving money to missionaries, right? Or like don't get too ambitious because the love of money is at the root of all evil, and we don't really like that. And don't work too hard because then you're going to lose your work-life balance, and you got to prioritize your family. So it's almost like this little sandpaper that they're like, they kind of sand down your ambition. And there's a lot of good motives behind that, but it's poorly executed. Okay, you have to tap into a purpose that drives you beyond this. If you don't, you're just going to be the pancake breakfast variety of a Christian man, which is not what we want, okay? Number 2, create alignment with your God-given identity as a man to unleash unshakable confidence, okay? We're going to get into this more later, but to suffice it to say, if you were living the way that God says that you are, right? If you lived in accordance to who God says that you are, then you would be unshakably confident, okay? We'll leave it at that for now. Number 3, discover and remediate the areas of healing that will allow your masculine instinct to thrive. Okay, so if you're dealing with a suppressed masculine instinct at any capacity, then it is always true that there is some wound that you need to heal. And all the chest thumping, bravado, just man up type dudes really cringe when we talk about healing, which shows how much they need to heal. We'll get into that more later. Number 4, establish anchors that keep you locked in even on your bad days. Because guys, here's something that everybody who's trying to sell you won't tell you. They have bad days where they don't toe the line, where they fail and where they mess up. Stop following these dudes that only show you perfection. Okay, I'm not talking about when they show you opposition. A lot of them are good at showing you like negative circumstances that come into their life and oppositional forces that come into their life, but most of them, almost none of them, will show you where they fail or they fall. But the truth is, guys, we all do. What you need to do is establish anchors that can keep you locked in on those days. Okay, we'll talk about that more later as well. Okay, we're going to break these down one by one. So number 1 is about purpose. Yes, your purpose is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. If you know, you know. But guess what? Mine is too. So is Bob's. So is John's. That's all of our purpose, okay? David's purpose was also to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. So was Paul's. So is Jesus's, okay? That's all of our purpose. But that looks very different for each person. And I love the church, okay? I know I'm kind of bashing, so it seems, a lot in this video, but I go to church. I love the church. The church has helped me through so much. I'm not trying to do that here. But what the modern church has got wrong is it has not properly equipped men to engage with their unique purpose in God's world. Because let's face it, Samson's purpose looked a lot different than Rahab's purpose, looked a lot different than Paul's purpose, looks a lot different than Peter's purpose, right? So you have to transcend the huge for your purpose. If you don't have a mission, then you cannot expect submission, okay? And this has to do with women, all right? So with women, yes, if you're a Christian man watching this and you've heard that, men lead, women submit, whatever like that, what does that really mean? Well, submit means to come up under. So sub means to come up under. And then mission literally is the same word. It's like mission, right? Mission just means mission. So to submit means to come up under someone else's mission, okay? And a lot of guys in the church, and a lot of nice guys, or guys that just don't have control over their sex drive, their mission is a woman. Like, that's why they go to work. That's why they go to the gym. That's why they brush their teeth, is for women, okay? And so when your mission is a woman, women or a woman, then you're not going to have a healthy dynamic with that woman because she wants to submit to you. If your mission is her and she's trying to submit to your mission, which is her, it's kind of like me looking at you and saying, hey, follow me, and then walking toward you. And then whenever you turn, I turn, and we're kind of doing this weird dance. There's no submission if there's no mission. So you have to have a purpose that transcends, especially family. Because if your purpose is just family, you're going to create this weird dancing around, this like your family's going to become inward and introverted and isolated, and you're going to be doing this weird stuff, okay? I've seen it a bajillion times, and I've been a victim of it too. So you have to establish that purpose. If you don't have a goal, then you don't have direction, then you don't have momentum, and women need to see a man in motion, okay? If you're not a man in motion, if you don't have momentum as a man, and you find a woman that takes you, rest assured she is settling, because women want a man in motion, okay? Vision, strategy, tactics, that's how I break down purpose. So we'll come over here. I got a little graph for you here. So purpose includes a vision, a strategy, and tactics, okay? So I want you to think about the vision as like, we're right here. We're traveling down this road, right? That's the momentum, that's the direction. And at the end of the road is going to be the vision, okay? The vision is going to be abstract. So we can call it something like, a good vision would be financial freedom, okay? Good father. Being a good father is good. We could say capable. This is just some generic stuff. Like, obviously this needs to be customized to you, but these could probably fit with everybody. Knowing God. Okay, that's another one. So here's the thing with vision. With vision, guys, it's all abstract, because on being a good father and being capable, on knowing God, on financial freedom, it's like, when would you ever stop pursuing those things? You're going to pursue being capable. You're going to be pursuing good fatherhood. You're going to be pursuing knowing God and financial freedom, all like until you die. Like, the vision, right, is abstract, okay? This stuff is abstract. You never arrive at the vision. Kobe Bryant put it this way. He said, I chase excellence and I chase perfection, knowing that I'll never attain them, but also knowing that I'll pass up everybody else along the way who's chasing something less, okay? The biggest innovations, the bloodiest wars, all the things that have shaped humankind, you can find somebody behind that was obsessed with a vision, something that's abstract. Things like love, things like hope, things like freedom. These are not things you can touch or hold. They're abstract concepts that you never attain and you're always pursuing, right? You don't just give up on love. You can't have too much of it. You don't just give up on being free one day, right? That would ruin it. It's not something you can just hold and keep. The rent is due on these things every single day. So you have to have an abstract piece of it. The next piece is strategy, and that's going to be the how, okay? So strategy is like things along the way that you're going to do that help you know you're moving the right way. So like if you think about going down a road, you're going to see these mile markers, right? Marriage is a very common mile marker on the road, okay? So here's the problem is a lot of you guys are so obsessed with marriage that your whole road is pointing in this direction and you're obsessing with the milestone itself, not with the abstract concept, which would be like to be a good father, to have a good family, something like that. You're so obsessed with the milestone that you're optimizing your life all around the milestone. It's kind of like being obsessed with, the coveted 225 bench, all right? Which, by the way, I've done that. It doesn't change your life. But a lot of guys are obsessed with, getting 2 plates on the bench, right? But if your whole fitness journey is obsessing about the bench, you're going to become very imbalanced. You're going to overtrain chest, undertrain back, etc. Probably skip leg day. You're probably not actually going to reach the goal because you're so bent on it that you forget to optimize for other things, right? So I'm just kind of highlighting the point. A lot of guys will obsess over these milestones and then be surprised when they don't reach it and then when they feel unfulfilled in their life, okay? So the strategy is how we get to the abstract vision, more specifically, how we move in the right direction on a daily basis, because we never actually obtain the vision, okay? And then underneath that would be the tactics, which is the what. So you think about abstract vision is the why, the strategy is the how, and the tactics are the what. They're like, what are you doing every day? How are you taking steps? So like for the bench press goal, it would be, a workout program, some sets and some rep combinations that would help get you stronger. You might use dumbbells, you might use barbell bench, you might do incline, you might do decline, you're going to supplement with some shoulder strengthening exercises, etc., etc. Those are your tactics. More specifically, what days of the week are you going, your nutrition program. Okay, so for those of you who have borne with me here, all of this is purpose. The vision, the strategy, and the tactics. If you lose any of these links in the chain, then you have lost your purpose, okay? That's why a lot of guys don't stay locked in, is because they don't have a clear connection to the vision and the strategy and the tactics. If you lose connection to any link in the chain, then you lose purpose. All right, number 2 is to create alignment with your God-given identity to unleash unshakable confidence. Guys, this one's gonna be super blurry too, but this was me. This is me at age 19, okay? As you can see, had the same hairline, kind of wonky, and had a lot more acne at that time. Guys, the look on my face, this kind of unhappiness, this kind of emptiness, that's pretty reflective of how I felt at the time. I was ashamed of who I was. I didn't like myself. Definitely leaning into that suppression. Definitely did not peak in high school or college or early 20s or mid 20s. Not doing okay. All right. My identity was rooted in the wrong things. For most men, identity is I am what I do. Okay. I am my accomplishments, my achievements, my skill sets, right? And that is what the world tells us. And that's what most religion tells us, but that's not what the God of the Bible tells us when we are redeemed in Christ. You are who God says you are. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. The creator of a thing determines its identity. Okay? Your parents gave you your name. Nobody questions that because they made you. When somebody invents something, they name it, or it's named after them, okay? Creator determines identity. Steve Jobs makes a computer and calls it an Apple. No one bats an eye because he's the creator, okay? We get this on so many different things, but when it comes to our identity, that's when we look up at God and say, no, I'm going to define myself. This is post-enlightenment, post-modern thinking that really messes us up, especially as men. It really appeals to our ego and our pride, and it makes us look at God and basically defy his order for things. But if you look at the rest of the world, we gladly accept that the creator of something determines its identity. But with God of all beings, for some reason, we like to say, no, I'll determine my own, right? It's very sinful, honestly. Whenever you can realize the misalignment between who you think you are versus who God says you are, you can create alignment between the two and then actually be confident as a man. You see, a lot of Christian men are frustrated by how apparently confident non-Christian men are. And the reason that these non-Christian bad boy types seem to be so confident is because they don't live inside of God's guidelines. Not only do they not live inside of God's guidelines, but they don't resist God's guidelines, right? The difference between you and me and them is we do live with inside God's guidelines, but most of us resist those guidelines, right? He's completely outside of that. He's not even involved, right? So he's able to self-express, be instinctive a lot quicker, okay? There's a lot more we could say there, but for the sake of time, I'm going to move on. A lot of Christian men can't get the confidence that they want to have because they are in God's world and they're trying to submit to God's world, but they are still misaligned with their identity, and so they can't fit into who God says they are, and so their confidence is always suppressed as they're torn between God's way and the world's way. I listed these things just to hone in on the fact that if you and I live this way, as if we are adopted, beloved sons of God, as if we are co-heirs with Christ, as if we have victory over sin, we're going to be extremely confident, okay? If you're living that way, you're extremely confident. And so the fact that most of us don't live that way shows that we have a misalignment with who we are, with our identity. Your identity and self-worth should not fluctuate with your performance, your possessions, or your status. Again, a lot of these false prophets of masculine spaces, they will tell you the way to improve your confidence is to improve your performance, your possessions, your status. That is not God's way. So when you half believe that and you half believe the things that you're hearing in church, you're just not going to make it straight up because you're not fully doing it the world's way and you're not fully doing it God's way. Your self-worth should be determined by your identity, should be determined by who God says you are, right? That is all. It doesn't matter if you've got tons of acne like I did when I was 19, if you have a clear face, if you're short, if you're tall, if you're doing great in life, or if you're struggling in life, your self-worth should be grounded in something that does not change. And guys, all of these masculine dudes that are in the spotlight, I've been following the space for many, many years. I've seen them come and go, and they will continue to fade away, to spark up and then fade because they're not grounded in the source. They're not grounded in God. And if they get to the very end of their life and they somehow BS their way through and they somehow convince everybody, including themselves, of how great they are, then that will be the biggest tragedy of all, because then only at their deathbed will they realize, oh, I had it all wrong. I don't want that for any of you. Number 3, discover and remediate areas of healing that will allow your masculine instinct to thrive, okay? As we discussed, most Christian men are suppressing their God-given masculine instinct out of fear, okay? It's a fear of, I got hurt the last time I did this, or I hurt somebody else the last time I did this, or this is wrong, this is evil, and they don't know how to manage that. It's a fear-based suppression. When we're doing things out of fear, that's almost always a sign that we need to do the other thing, right? This is just a little testimonial from one of my clients who was suppressing himself, and then he kind of came out of it. If you guys want to pause and read that, you definitely can. It's a great encouragement. Modern masculinity gurus imply that it takes more strength to cover up weakness than it does to heal it. Okay, there's this big campaign of vulnerability among the guys who speak through their noses and sound hippy dippy. Like, be vulnerable as a man. You just, yeah, man, like healing and vulnerability is so nice. And then you have the masculine men don't, they don't cry. Masculine men aren't vulnerable. Vulnerability kills masculinity. It's weak, and everything in between. The truth is, if you want to heal, okay, hang with me, right? If you want to heal a wound, you have to remove the armor, okay? It's that simple. If you can't understand that, I can't help you, all right? That doesn't mean that you have to remove the armor in the public square and cry in front of everybody, but it does mean that the armor has to come off. You have to scrape the junk out of the wound. You have to put the medicine on it. You have to redress it. And then guess what? You're going to have to do it again in a few weeks or in a few days. It's a process, and it does require vulnerability. And why so many of, like, half my clients are stuck or were stuck in this place of stagnation and frustration is because they're afraid to heal. Because to heal would be exposing weakness. It's not weakness that wasn't already there. The weakness is there whether you expose it or not, but you have to expose that weakness by taking the armor off to heal the wound. It's not rocket science, okay? But a lot of guys don't want to do it because they're too afraid to take that armor off. They don't feel safe. Another big reason why you need to heal is because a woman wants a complete man. She does not want a man that she has to complete. She doesn't want to be your therapist. She doesn't want to be your anchor. She doesn't want to be your rock, bro. Okay? If you want to attract high quality women on autopilot that are not dysfunctionally attracted to your dysfunctions, which that's usually what happens, then you need to go through healing. Okay? Your masculine instinct will not emerge from the cage until you are healed enough to let it out. I'm going to reference a book called Iron John. It's a kind of a hokey book. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but a good illustration he has is there's this boy and he loses his golden ball. And this golden ball represents his kind of spark for life and his zeal for life. So he loses his golden ball, and it bounces away and it goes into the cage of this monster. And the monster has the ball. And I'm going to abbreviate the story a little bit, but the monster more or less says, hey, I'll give you the ball back, but you have to let me out of the cage. And this is indicative of whenever the boy suppresses his zeal for life, it has to do with the fact that the monster is in the cage, and that monster represents that masculine instinct, okay? So it's not going to come out of the cage until you let it out. And you're not going to let it out until you have healed from the wounds that have caused you to be afraid of what might happen if you do, okay? A lot there. This is why I said to lock in and take notes. You may have to replay some of this, but I don't want to make this a 5-hour video, so we're going to keep going. Number 4, establish anchors that keep you locked in even on your bad days. A lot of people look at me and they think, oh, he's just disciplined all the time. He just crushes it all the time. Easy for him, he's just one of those disciplined guys. No. I have always struggled with being disciplined. That's why I'm a coach. Guys, this is a major side note, but don't listen to the guys who are naturally good at the thing. Whether it's basketball, whether it's, grooming or fashion, you don't listen to the 6'4", 225, pure muscle, Chad jaw, perfect facial symmetry model on how to dress. Because anything looks good on him, right? You don't listen to the jacked, stout offensive lineman on how to play football, okay? You listen to the coach. You listen to the guy who has to learn the ins and outs, right? So that's a long way of saying I'm not one of these dudes who's just dysfunctionally autistic about discipline and then pretend like I can teach somebody. That's what a lot of coaches do. They're naturally good at something and then they're like, oh, I'm so naturally good at this and everybody wants me to teach them, so they become a coach. That doesn't mean they're good at coaching, okay? Sorry, major soapbox there. But I had one of my buddies ask me this. He said, have you always been well disciplined, or do you still struggle with it? I feel like that's my biggest Achilles heel. I'll be on a great track for a few weeks and then everything violently goes off the tracks eventually. Okay, which I related heavy to that in my past. The solution to that I use for myself and my clients is to establish anchors. Okay, so anchors sound like a bad thing because you guys are obsessed with freedom. I say you guys, like this generation, like millennials, Gen Z, even some of Gen X is obsessed, especially the men, like escape the matrix, right? Like freedom, breaking out of everything, right? Be free, time freedom, location freedom, etc. It's a false god, guys. True freedom is not a thing. You can't truly be free in the sense that you're thinking about it. Let me explain. You can either have barriers or you can have burdens. All right? Barriers are going to be things that keep you locked into a certain path, and burdens are going to be things that slow you down. So you have to pick. You can't have none of it. You're either going to have barriers or burdens. So burdens are the weight of every single decision that you have to make. Okay? Stay with me. Burdens are the weight of every single decision that you have to make. Barriers are restrictions that keep you from making certain decisions. So the barriers kind of make decisions for you, right? So if I have barriers around me, then I can't go over them. And all the decisions that I could make outside of those barriers are off limits to me, right? So I can only stay on this path. All the infinite decisions that exist outside of this path don't practically exist to me because I have the barriers. Now, if I don't have the barriers, some people will look at that and say, oh, that's freedom. But here's the thing. Now, instead of having the barriers, I have exposure to all of those different decisions, and I have to make each and every single one. And that is a very heavy weight of burden. So hang with me. The reason why you don't stay on track is because you don't have enough barriers. Another way to think of it is an anchor. Okay, the burdens are weights. The barriers are the same as anchors in the sense that an anchor keeps you stuck in a certain place. Okay, and it feels like a restriction because it is. It restricts you from making all of these different decisions. Here's the problem. The reason why that you, like my buddy and I, and like I used to be, will be on a great track for a few weeks and then everything violently goes off the tracks is because you try to live your life with all this freedom and everything's flexible and you don't have a consistent routine and things are one way this way and another way another day, and it's all hunky-dory while you're on this dysfunctional, you're not good enough, be better, I'm literally Batman motivational arc. Everything's great. You're doing great. Okay? But on your bad days or days when you get thrown a curveball or something comes up that messes you up, you get sick, any number of things that happen to everybody, then you get messed up because you don't have the emotional and mental energy to make all of these little micro decisions perfectly every single day. You just don't have it, bro. None of us do, okay? They sell you the dream, and they're always selling you something. Escape the matrix, buy my course, right? Be financially free, control your time, yada, yada, yada. They're selling you that dream because it sounds great, don't it? But it's a false god. You're either going to have weights or anchors, barriers or burdens. And if you want to stay locked in even on your bad days, then trust me, my brother, you need some anchors. The tortoise didn't beat the hare because of speed, but because of consistency, okay? It's not slow and steady wins the race. That's what the saying is. The truth is steady wins the race. And then as you continue in being steady, you can get faster within that steadiness. Anchors keep you consistent. If I have anchors throughout my day, that at this time I do this, at that time I do that, I have accountability here, I have structure there, then even on my bad days, I might not move through the day with the same speed, but I'm going to move through it with consistency and in the right direction. Okay. And then I can wake up the next day and have not lost my momentum and keep moving in the right direction. Your commitments and anchors have to be strong enough to work, but not too strong that they can restrict your movement. Or I guess I should say over constrict your movement. The types of anchors you want to use are social accountability, built-in rewards, and punishments. Okay, so social accountability can come in the form of a good men's group, a friend that will hold you accountable, not just, oh, we should be accountability partner. No, like seriously, that will seriously hold you accountable. Most of the time, you're going to have to pay for that, just being real. Okay, a men's group like that, friends like that, family might sometimes do it. A coach will definitely do it, a good one. You have to have social accountability, which is people that you would let down and that would get on to you if you didn't stick to your anchor. Built-in rewards and punishments can go with social accountability. They can also be standalone. But you have to create anchors. Structure your life in such a way to where on your bad days, it will be easier to do the hard thing than to give into the easy thing, okay? That's the essence of what an anchor is. So guys, that's the Catalyst program. Purpose, identity, healing, and anchors all added together will catalyze a change in your life. I used to try and check all the boxes and do the right thing, thinking it would make me happy and confident, but it led to a life of suppression, confusion, and legalism with no results that I was looking for. Plenty of results that I wasn't, but none of the ones that I was. I went through spurts and seasons of motivation and discipline, but then cyclically fell off and reverted to old habits, never making real progress over months or even years. Now, I engage life from a place of confidence and purpose. I enjoy steady progress and growth along the way, and I'm continually attracting the right types of people, including women, into my life. So now that you understand exactly how this process works, I want to pitch you an offer, okay? You can go and do all of this yourself, but like I said, will you? Will you? Okay? My clients will tell you it's worth the investment if you are tired of repeating the same cycles of motivation and burnout, struggling to find success in dating, reliant on self-pleasure, screen-based dopamine, and caffeine hits to cope with your own existence, and you are ready to grow in your faith and masculine nature at the same time, wanting to embody the man God has made you to be, and you're committed to making a powerful change, then it's time to launch out of your plateau and into the next level, guys. If this is you, if this is actually you, and you're ready to join the men who have gone through the Catalyst program and made massive changes in their life, then there's a link below that you can click on to schedule a call with me. Worst case scenario is we realize it's not a good fit and you have all this great information for free to execute on your own. That's the worst case scenario, okay? This has changed me. This has changed clients. Again, you saw Pasha's testimonial earlier. There's more on my Instagram at NarrowWayMan. If you have questions, you can ask them. But I don't want to work with just anybody. Don't waste my time. I turn away potential clients, and I will even fire clients that aren't putting in the work because I don't need your money. Okay? God is my provider. I didn't quit my corporate job making six figures so that I could coach men and make more money. That was not it. I did this because this is my mission. This is my purpose, guys. Okay? So I'm not going to sit here and be like, work with me or like your life's going to fall apart. I'm not going to say that. But for some of you, and if you're feeling the pull, don't ignore it. You need to book a call and at least explore. I don't do a sales pitch on this call, okay? This is just an exploratory call, and it will help you determine what we could do together. It will help me assess your situation, see if I could even possibly help you. Because like I said, I don't work with just anybody. You have to be committed to making a powerful change. I don't want to be someone's little emotional cushion where they just vent and they just want to be heard. Like go find somebody else to do that. But if you're ready to make a powerful change, then I'm ready to jump all in with you. Book a call below if you want to truly catalyze the big change you've been wanting to make. And guys, either way, thank you for watching. I appreciate every single one of you guys that is on this journey with me. A lot more is coming. Please be sure you're subscribed, following me at Narrowway Man as well on Instagram, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.